Here, except my father, I want to go with my husband. So she said, "Can I go with him?" And he said, "Yes." So from each house, one person had to go, but a lot of them volunteered to go with the youngest, and then an older person went. Next door neighbor, and next to the youngest, he said, "Can I volunteer because I want to be with him?" Now, we went on the truck. There were women, boys and girls, 12, 13, 14 years old. The truck took off, and about an hour to 2 hours, the truck stopped. Everybody out of the truck, and a big door opened up, and about half of the size of this room, and they told us to get in. It was a concrete floor, and they pushed us in, and they told us to be very, very quiet. Now, the minute when they took us away, we didn't have anything to drink, we didn't have any food to eat, and you didn't have any place where to go. But I'm not going to go into details. You have to visualize what happened because we got a lot of young kids over here. And they pushed us in. They told us to be quiet, and we hardly could sit down. And we sat down, and all of a sudden, it started smelling. So, and the minute somebody ran out, they got shot instantly because there were guards outside. And we were very, very quiet, and we got up. And around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, we got on the truck, and the trucks took off. Now, I was the first one in. I was on the wall, and I was the last one out. Now, the last one out, I turned around, and I saw that mess over there. It was unbelievable. I don't wish anybody, not even my enemies, to be in that kind of position. And so anyway, we went on the trucks took off, and about a few hours later, everybody had to get off in the truck. We lined up, and we were marching, and then all of a sudden I saw barbed wire from a distance. And on top, there was SS with machine guns. And closer we came to it, the gate opened up, and we marched in. They told us to line up, and we were four abreast to lined up. So I was the third one, and not quite in the middle, but on the other side. So from the front, nobody could see me except my head. And as I was standing there, my friend said, "He's taken out young kids who don't look good, the elderly, and pushed them on the side." And the friend said, "When they come towards me, you better stay with us." I had no idea what they meant by it, but I listened because they were 2, 3 years older than me. And sure enough, the Obersturmführer came, and they picked me up by my armpit, and I was as tall as there. And he passed by, and he, sure enough, didn't say anything, and I was safe. Now, that's not the first time, and that's not the last time. And I start calling them my 2 angels. Now, and I have to go a little further. They survived the war. One used to live in Kansas City, Kansas. One used to live in Kansas City, Missouri. We used to have a good time, but we never talked about what happened years ago. and they passed away in 2003 or 4. And I really felt bad. And I think I'm the only one survivor, as far as I know, from my town. So anyway, and they told us to sign us into a barrack. The females and the girls went on one side, the men and the boys went on the other side, and the barbed wire was in the middle. But we went to work. We all went together. But we came back to the barracks. We were separated. Meanwhile, the SS man who was in charge of the camp on the loudspeaker said, "Who is a tailor? Who's a shoemaker? Who's a watchmaker? Report to him." Now, my uncle was a tailor, and he asked him, "How do you know you? Show me you. How do you tailor?" He said, "Well, I made uniform for the Polish army." And he sure did. And he said, "Well, can you make uniform for us?" He said, "Sure." So he made uniforms for them, and they used to give him bread. He used to have the privileges to go to visit his wife, and on the other side. But meanwhile, we woke up in the morning, and they gave us a cup of coffee and a slice of bread, and we lined up. We were marching. Now we were marching maybe about 1 mile to 2 miles to the factory, and that factory they used to make pistols. They used to make bicycles, and they used to make rifles. Me, they assigned to a pistol. So meanwhile, as they assigned us to the barrack, there was no facilities where to go. There was no water. If you have to go, what do? You just have to sneak outside. If they catch you, you were dead. They shot you instantly. Now, I was lucky. I sneaked out in a certain time, and I was watching for the guards, where they are. The minute okay? So you get an idea. Okay? That's as far as I'm going to go. And that's what happened every single day. Now, as they assigned me to the pistol, there was almost like a 45. You're all familiar with the pistol, aren't you? Where the magazine goes into it, there's 2 grooves in the pistol. My job was to make 2 grooves with the machine. And the first time I sat down and I put the machine on, I really screwed it up. And the foreman was a Polish foreman, very nice guy. He said, "Well, I have to report you." I had no idea what he meant by that. And a few minutes later, I see an SS coming with a whip. Now, on the end of the whip, he had little beads, if you're familiar with it. He came over here to me and said, "Hast du gemacht?" I said, "Yeah." And he gave me 1 whip. And it hurts, but I didn't cry. And he said to me, "Next time, it won't be like this, it will be worse." So I really didn't understand what he meant. So the foreman explained to me, and he said, "Well, I'll tell you one thing, but nice and quiet." He said, "If you make another one, I'll show you where to hide it." And sure enough, that wasn't the last time. It wasn't the first time, and it wasn't the last time. And every time I made a mistake, there was a lot of scrap over there, and I put it underneath the scrap. And I was very, very happy. And I said to him, if that's the case, I said to myself, maybe I'll ask him for a piece of bread. He said, "Well, I haven't got a heck of a lot, but I'll see what I can do. And he brought me a piece of bread with a piece of kielbasa. And I was very, very happy that we now for quite a few weeks from 19 up outside the gate. They told the whole camp, must be about 5,000, maybe more, to watch it. And they told them to kneel down, and they shot him back of the head. As they were laying down, nobody took their bodies away, so you can see the birds coming and eat their flesh. Meanwhile, still people were escaping. At least once a week, quite a few friends of mine got killed like that. And for some reason, I was really, really lucky. I always prayed, but it did good. So I believe somebody's there. And but I'm still arguing with him, with her or him. So I don't know whom I talking to. I said, I'm talking to both of you. So whoever has helped me is good. So anyway, meanwhile, there was a rumor going on. If you remember the history, the German invaded the Soviet Union. They almost were to Stalingrad, and they almost went to Moscow. When, for one reason, another, you know the reason, the Soviet Union pushed them back, and the frost, the freezing, and everything else. And the Soviet army pushed them to go west. And was a rumor going on, the Soviet Union is moving that fast when we should evacuate it from Radom. Now, Radom was a big city, a big Jewish population, wealthy people. And I got hurt on my left foot. They, for some reason or another, had big flesh. And I hurt my foot and on the machine. Now, I went into the infirmary and I saw the doctor, and he took one look at me. He said, "Don't come back." I know what he meant right then and there. I said, "But it hurts." He said to me, "Don't come back." And I said, "What am I going to do?" So he gave me a piece of cloth. I don't know where he got it from. He said, "Here it is." Put it around, and I almost lost my foot to gangrene. Now, this was from 1942 to 1945. So you can imagine how painful that was. And I had to march. And as I was walking, I had to stay on one foot. Now today, if the weather comes, like today was raining, I could feel it, still feeling it, because it's no flesh over there, it's strictly a bone. And one day they said, we're going to have to leave Radom to go, I don't know where. And they came. But meanwhile, as I was saying, my uncle had privileges to go to see his wife. So her husband and wife, she got pregnant in camp. A lot of people, this time came for her delivery. But this is okay for you kids to understand. And I'm not going into really detail. And she delivered the baby, and two SS women were there. As the baby was being born, they picked it up and threw it at the wall. Okay, so you can imagine, visualize it, what happened. And about 3 or 4 weeks later, they told us to line up, and we were marching. Now, if you go on the internet, you're going to see the Radom Death March. From maybe 5,000, maybe 2,000 to 2,500 survived. They were dying as we were marching. especially the older, and especially the older women. And as they were laying down, they still were alive. And the SS came, as they saw them, they shot them and they were laying there, and I don't know what happened to their bodies. And a lot of people escaped. They asked me, a couple of friends of mine asked me, come on with me. I said, where am I going to go? I have no idea where I am. As a 13-year-old kid, where am I going to go? So I said, no, I'm not going. As we were marching, we came to a farm. We came to a farm. The doors opened up from a farm, and they pushed us in. And they told us to be very, very quiet. Schnapps in that. Anybody has it here? As we were pushed in, the doors closed, and I smelled something. I didn't know what it was, but I saw a fence. I couldn't go further, and I looked over the fence, and I saw something moving in the dark. I jumped over. I sat down. There were cows. I sat on the manure, and it was nice and warm. Okay, and I didn't sleep. I was dozing. As I was dozing, the door opened up, and the sun hit me. And who came in? A Polish girl. She must have been about 16, 17, maybe 18, something like that. And she said, what are you doing here? So I told her what I'm doing in Polish. And I said, it's a lot of people in the back of the day. She said, wait a minute, I'll be right there. I thought for sure that she's going to tell her father and mother that a lot of people are in the barn. To my surprise, she brought me a hot chocolate. And now that's the first time in my life I had a hot chocolate. I never had it. And it was delicious. And now I have to tell you, after the war, I started looking for her. I looked for her for about 2-3 months. I couldn't find her. Nobody knew where we were. And I hope she lived a good life. And with God's help, she lives a long time. So anyway, in the morning, they woke us up, and we were marching. Now, as we were marching, there was a whistle. I never heard that whistle before, and I said to the guy who was marching with me, what is it? And he said, that's a train whistle. I said, what is a train? I never saw a train. And you'll find out, because it must be a train close to here, and I don't know if you're going to go on it or not, but you'll find out. And sure enough, as we were marching, we saw a train. Must be about 20-30 cars lined up, and with 2 little windows on each car, and they pushed us in. Now there were men and women in the same march, so they didn't separate us until we came to a certain place. We got in, they closed the cars, and we didn't have anything to eat for 2 days. Nothing. Not a drink of water, because there was no water there to drink. As the doors closed, in a few hours the train stopped, and everybody out. We got up, and we told us to line up. As we were marching, I smelled something very, very nice, like bacon. You know, you sometimes you go by a restaurant, and the bacon, how a nice aroma it is, that's how it smelled. As we were marching, and then I saw, as closer we came, I saw a sign, Arbeit macht das Leben frei. In other words, you work, your life will be good. And underneath it says Auschwitz. We marched underneath. They lined us up, They took the women away and the girls, and the men and the boys were standing there, and the officer came around, and he was inspecting us, and he took out what he thought was not fit to work. And sure enough, I was standing between two guys. They picked me up, and I was as taller there, and I was saved again. So those two guys were my angels. He was looking, or she was looking down. And so anyway, they assigned us to a bed, a bunk. My bunk was on the third one, and we had to get up very early in the morning. We got up in the morning, and this guy who was there picked 5 or 6. Each guy was there, maybe about 10 of them, but this guy who picked me and picked a few other guys with me, and he said, come on with me. And he said, here's a barrel, and I tell you what to do with the barrel. As we were walking, I said, what's going on? He didn't say a word, nothing, as quiet as anything. So as we were walking, he said, do this, take this clothes and bring it over there, and that's your job to do. As I was walking back and forth, I saw people, men, women, and children getting undressed, and they threw the clothes on. And I said to him, what is going on? He didn't answer me. And the door opened up, and was a big commotion there going on. You know, sometimes you put a lot of people in a small room, something is going to happen. They laughed, or they cried, or they singing, or everything. I couldn't understand what it was. And all of a sudden it got nice and quiet. And I was really, really furious what's going on. I said, tell me what is happening. And I was the only one. The other ones didn't open their mouth because they were afraid, but I wasn't afraid, you know. And he said, well, that was not a shower, that was the gas chimney. And the other side, he said, they take out their bodies, and they put them in the incinerator, and they burn them. And that's how I smelled bacon when they burn the body. So that's the aroma I smelled. And I was only over there. I would work for a few days. And on the loudspeaker came around, they said, whoever came on that particular car, assemble on the outside. So I assembled with maybe about 300-400 men, no women, only men. And they told us to line up and get on the train. We got up on the train, and the train took off, and we came to another camp. And the other camps, the train stopped. At that time, we didn't have anything to eat, and nothing to drink, and nothing to the facility, anything. So you can imagine how we, all of us smelled the same. So we couldn't tell any difference than anybody. Now, I wore the same clothes for almost 3.5 years. And I didn't have a shower. So you can imagine how bad it was. We didn't have any toiletry, let me put it this way, in a nice way. Okay, nothing. So, and we went up, we went into Germany. We went into Germany, and they assigned me and maybe about 50 more, maybe 100, to an Air Force facility, and my job was to get 2 bags, 50-pound cement on my back, and we were patching up the craters what the American and the English were bombing. My job was, not only mine, but my particular job was to carry 2 50 pounds, and I was 14 years old then, so you can imagine hardly anything to eat and carry 250 pounds, but I did it. The telephone is not ringing. So that's a good sign. Yeah. And we were doing this, and for quite a while they told us to get in the room, throw underneath. Meanwhile, we were infested with lice, and we had millions of lice. If you could sell them by the pound, so it probably would be worth a fortune now. So anyway, and one morning it came, and I got up. It was making the SS were making a lot of noise, and I kicked the guy who was sleeping near me. He didn't move. So I said to the other people, "He's not moving. I don't know what's the matter with him." And sure enough, the guy was dead. We picked him up and put him on the side on the wall, and I found out a couple of days later that it was typhus. And not only this guy, maybe about 30 or 40 other people did the same thing, but the soldiers were afraid to come in because typhus is very contagious. Okay, so we had our buddies there. Would you believe me that in those 5 years, I did not have a cold. In the 5 years, I didn't even have a headache. I was not sick at all, except my foot. And I was very, 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 very lucky. But I was infested with lice. I mean, I must have 1 million to 2 million lice on it. So I think I was walking on them instead of me walking on them. So I hope you never get through. So anyway, as we were walking, and that was common, and almost the end of 1944, going into almost not quite 1945, must have been October, November of 44. As the Soviet Union troops were marching west into Germany, they told us we were going to have to move. We got on the train, and we took off on the train again, and we stopped in another place, and we got off and get out. At that time, I worked at the railroad. Now, my job at that particular place was the railroad ties. You know where the tie is on the railroad. So I used to have a pickaxe, and I used to take the pickaxe, and I used to take the pebbles underneath the ties, so the train wouldn't wobble. And that was my job. But the SS did not come with us. There was a civilian, and he was very, very nice. And he said, "Well, going to the SS, I'm not coming with us." I said, "How about helping us with some food?" And he said, "Well, we haven't got a heck of a lot either, but I'll see what I can do." The next day, but he said, if I bring something, make sure you don't go over right away and to take it, because they're still watching us. And sure enough, he brought some food. He left it in one place. About 10, 15 minutes later, another guy went over slowly, picked up the food, and we're eating. We're very happy. He at least brought up about 2-3 times a week. We were very happy. As we were marching back to the barrack, a friend of mine, he had good eyes. My eyes weren't so good. He saw a steam coming up from the right-hand side. And the steam's coming up. As close as we get, he said, "I see pigs over there." And it looks like, smells potatoes, warm potatoes. He ran out, and you can imagine, he ran out, and there were a guard with a machine gun, I thought for sure he would be shot. And sure enough, he came back with a handful of hot potatoes. And so each one had a little potato, and we were doing it almost every day as long as we dare. And he didn't say nothing, the guy, and he probably felt sorry for us. I don't know what, but anyway, he didn't do it. And still, people were dying because we had very, very little food, and you couldn't escape because that was in Germany. Now, we were there for about 3-4 months doing the same thing every single day. Now, we were working for about 16 to 18, sometimes 24 hours a day without stopping. If you couldn't work, they beat you almost to death. And I didn't get hit. I was very, very, very strong. And I said to the guys, we're gonna go through it. And we heard the rumor that the Soviet Union was coming closer. That was in 1945. And the rumor was that they liberated Auschwitz about 3 or 4 months before, and they were coming west to Germany. As the rumor went out of this, and they told us when, and we got on the train. We got on the train, and the train took off from that camp, and the train took off, and then all of a sudden, about 2 hours later, the train stopped and was going backwards. It was going back and forth, maybe about 3-4 hours. Meanwhile, we were locked in, standing room only. One guy sat down. You can imagine what happened. If you have no facilities today, you did whatever you had to do. You did it over there, and nobody paid any attention. But no women, they were only men on that particular train. We went back and forth, and all of a sudden, 2 planes came by, and they dropped bombs on the tracks, and my car was hit on one side and on the other side. They made 2 big craters. So my car went up maybe about 3 or 4 feet, and then it fell down. I had a concussion, and I went to heaven. And I was looking for my parents, and I saw people marching with no end. Everybody was wearing white. And I was looking over there, and all of a sudden a voice came to me. He said, "Go back, I don't need you." And I woke up, and I said to my friend who was standing there, he knew me when I was a baby because he used to work for my father. And I told him what happened. He was laughing. He said, "No, I can't. You didn't do that." I said, "Yes, I was dreaming." The dream must have been maybe about 3-4 seconds, but it looks like it's going on forever. And I said, "But it wasn't technical." I said, "No." I said, "Yes, I'm telling you." And he still didn't believe me, but he passed away maybe about 15, 20 years ago. He's right. He was a nice guy. The train stopped. They punched the machine gun, the locomotive, and the plane came by, and and a lot of people went out. They had the stripes uniform, and the plane came by, and they saw it was not an army train, and the wings went back and forth, so they're not going to bomb. They didn't bomb the train, and we got out from the train, and on the 3 other cars, the locks were inside, so they got out first. And my car specifically the lock was outside, so we couldn't get out. But meanwhile, we were looking out, And the guy, I didn't see it. The guy said that the soldiers, the SS, are running away and they're dropping the rifles, the machine guns. And this guy yelled out and said, "Open the door." He opened the door, and we ran out, and I hear fire, the machine gun fire. Now, I did not see it, but somebody told me we had Polish soldiers on the train, Jewish Polish soldiers, so they know how to use the weapon, and they were shooting at them. And I didn't see it, but I heard machine guns, and they were, and most likely it was true, but they killed quite a few of them. And we got into the crater, and all of a sudden the Red Cross came with packages, and they distribute packages. Now, as they were distributing packages, they say, "Please do not eat, because you guys are very skinny, and you're going to most likely get sick." So I was with those two guys, two angels, and they said, "Hey, be very careful what you eat." And I listened to them, and they didn't do it. And quite a few people ate so fast that they died instantly because they couldn't take it. Some of them went to the hospital, and because they were very, very sick. And all of a sudden, I see from a distance, like from here to the out of the further than the window, the turret from a tank opened up, and a truck is behind that tank. As it was opened up, somebody came out, but they were black. I said, "Who are they?" Because I never saw a black person, and we were talking, who are they? They never saw a black person either. Finally, somebody came over and they said, "Well, this is American soldiers." Well, at that time, the army was desegregated, no more, so they had a special black outfit and a white outfit, and they 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, they just took off, and that was it. Meanwhile, as we had the packages, and we were going by ourselves, about 6 of us, we passed by a bakery, and they said to me, "Hey, you fast? Why don't you run in and get some bread, see what's baking over there." I ran in, and the guy was taking out baguettes, the long bread, the skinny one, and I grabbed a hold. As it taken out, I tried to grab a bunch of them, and what do you think he did? He hit me with the peel, and I was afraid. I ran out, and they said, "Where's the bread?" They say, the guy hit me, so I didn't have any bread. Meanwhile, the elderly people from the 30s to the 40s, they didn't go for bread. They robbed the jewelry, they robbed the banks, they took anything they wanted, especially my other uncle. He grabbed some gold watches, and his son still has it today. Okay? He had 5 of them, but he has 2 left. And as we were walking, the military police came. They say, "Get on the truck. We're going to take you to a ex-army camp, and everything will be okay." We got off on the truck that was in Feldafing, near Munich. As we got off the truck, they told us to take our clothes off, and they sprayed us with DDT. That was the poison, and you can see the lies falling down. You shake a tree and the apples fall down. That's how it worked for me. And they say, "Get in, take a shower." And the guy came with me and another guy, because we were 2 guys in the room. And he said, "Well, get into the shower." I said, "You kidding me?" I said, "I'm not going into the shower." I said, "Why?" Well, I told him why. He said, No. Go get into the shower." I said, "No, I'm not going into the shower." He said, "Until you go into the shower first." What do you think he did? He went into the shower. Wow, I said to myself. So I went into a shower. I took a shower. They gave me new clothes. I said, what is that? What is he pointing to? The toilet. I said, what do you do with it? Okay, so he explained to me what you do with the toilet. That's the first time in my life I saw a toilet, because when I was before the war, we only had an outhouse. So when you're going in an outhouse in the wintertime, what happens? you get frozen honey. Okay, and 20 below zero. Okay, so you can imagine. So anyway, we took a shower, we used the toilet, we got dressed, we assembled in the room, and meanwhile in that town, in Feldafing, was a railroad going through. They, when the railroad goes through, it's a curve. I'm not crying. I had dry eyes. When the railroad goes through, the train has to slow down. So the elderly people who knew more than we teenagers knew, they said, get on the train and throw suitcases out. Now, what does that mean? Robin Hood. And you rob the train and throw it out. I had no idea what was in the suitcases. That went on for about a week or so, and all of a sudden, who came over? General Patton. General Patton came over and he said to the guys who were running the camp over there, I heard you guys are robbing you're sending the kids, the teenagers, to rob the train, and the German people who are going home, the war is over, and they don't like it. And if you don't stop it, I'm going to fence you in. Well, you just got out from an electric fence, and they're going to fence you in again, and you scream. And they said, who is in charge? And then they say, President Eisenhower. And I said, can we talk to him? And he said, yeah, sure. A few days later, President Eisenhower came, and I got a picture of it. If you like to see it, where is it now? I got it here someplace. I'll show you later on. Oh, here it is. Here's the picture in Feldafing. President Eisenhower, General Eisenhower and Patton. That's the picture they took, and they were in this book. Okay? And Eisenhower said, I want you to stop, because the war's over, and we have to do things for the good. And sure enough, we stopped. And they were feeding us, and then about a week later, announcement came, all the teenagers should be assembled, and we went to a young teenage camp where the army used to be before, in Wolfratshausen, that was near Munich. They assigned us to a barrack, and I met, you meet friendly people. Finally, the first time I had a horn. I met that girl, and I gave her the horn. And I thought we were friends, nothing else. And she picked somebody else, and she got married to him. And meanwhile, then we didn't have enough Jewish girls to dance, so they invited German girls. I met a nice German girl, and she invited me to her house. I went over because I had bread, I had everything what I wanted, so I brought it over to her, and her mother made a nice dinner, and we sat and talked. And I just happened to turn around, and on the wall I say, who's this? She said, that's my father. He was a high SS officer. behind. And he said, "Where is he?" He said, over there, sitting there. And he was looking at me. He came over to the table. He was very, very nice. I can see why it wouldn't be nice. And I said to myself, should I report it? What do you think I did? Huh? Should I?
Yeah.
Yeah? I didn't. I didn't do. I said the war's over. What are they going to do with him? I don't know how. He's going to take away from her father. So I didn't. As I said goodbye, I went outside, and he followed me outside. He had a beautiful leather coat on. You know, the German leather coat, you ever see it? And on his side was a German motorcycle with a sidekick, an army motorcycle. And I looked at it, I said to him, "Can I have it?" Just like that. And he looked at me, "Yeah, you can have it." I said, how you drive it?" I didn't know how to drive it. So he told me how to do it. I took it out. That was in the middle. We were liberated in April 1945. But August, September, I had a motorcycle. Okay, and driving around in that camp, everybody was jealous. And, but I should have hindsight, you know. If I knew then what I know now, it would be a different story. I would take it with me. But I left it over there. I don't know who took it. I have no idea. And we had a good time. Meanwhile, the 18 or 19 or 20, whoever was there, they got married. Now from 1945, the end of 1945 to 1946, the camp doubled. The camp doubled in population. Now, meanwhile, they said who wants to go to Palestine and who wants to go to the United States. Now, I remember, like I said, my grandmother used to have packages from the United States. I said, "Well, I have some from the United States." And the flight inside was on the coast. So that's what they said as a kid. I believed them. So gold thinking. No gold. It was a flap. So they opened the book. They said, "What's your name?" So my grandmother's name was Sherman. There must have been about 100 Sherman in the book. And I had no idea. So my answer was, "Well, I'll let you know in 2-3 weeks." 2-3 weeks came. He called me up, and I went to Munich to the American consulate. And he said, "I just got a letter from them, and then they don't know you, and besides, they don't even Jewish." So that was the end of that. That was in the end almost of 1946. Well, meanwhile, I had a good time in the camp. I did everything what I wanted. I had a bicycle, I had a motorcycle, I had friends, and they told us not to talk about the past. Now, I didn't talk about it until 1988. That's a long. I was silenced on that subject, and all of a sudden there was an announcement at the beginning of 1947. Now, Harry Truman, because the State Department was anti-Semitic, and they still is the anti-Semitism in the State Department today. So it didn't change a heck of a lot. And Truman gave an order to let 180,000 teenagers come into the United States. I was one of them. They gave me a number, and I had to report to Raymond Hoffman. I reported to Raymond Hoffman, and we got on the ship the name of it, Marine Flush. It was an Army transport ship. And we got on it, and I had the Army bunks, you know, the Hessick, and I slept over it, and we had a good time. That's the first time I had pork chops. Now, a Jewish kid having pork chops, my God, that was a sin. And so anyway, the captain said we wanted to see it was a big storm then, and the captain said we come to New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty. So everybody was really excited to see the Statue of Liberty. At around 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock, something like that, and he on the loudspeaker, he announced the Statue of Liberty on site. We're going to come around, and everybody who wants to see it going on one side. So you can imagine the ships hold 5,000 to 6,000 people, everybody going on one side. So what happened? The ship was tilting, and he yelled out, I say, please go on the other side, otherwise we're going to turn over. And sure enough, we went on the other side, but he said, I'm going to go around so everybody could see it. We went around, we saw the Statue of Liberty, the ship came to a pier, we got out, all of us, and we went to a hotel, and they gave me $5. Everybody who came out got $5. Now, $5 was a lot of money in 1947. A cup of coffee was 2 cents, I think, and a donut was not even a nickel. Yeah, for 12 cents you get a dozen donuts. Well, I tried to get it today. So anyway, we were there, they were feeding us, and I got a first haircut, and then I said to my friend, we can't come together, I said, let's go see Times Square. Now I could see from the hotel, I could see Times Square, you know, it goes around with the writing, I could see it, and I said, let's go any closer. As we're going any closer, I saw something on the ground, and I stepped on it. And that was around 5, 6 o'clock, and the guy, my buddy, said, what are you doing? I said, nothing, I'm just standing there. And the minute I saw a star, I took my foot away, and it was a $20 play money. Now, the reason I stepped on it is because I must have been about 7, 8, and my rabbi said on Saturday, do not pick up any money. And it hit me. I said, wow. And I told him, I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, no, that's what the rabbi told me. As I was 12 years old then, as a kid, I used to live across the street from Sunday school. So one day I decided I'm going to be a mischief, real mischief. You know, the rabbi usually had a beard at that time, and as he was teaching, he took his hat and fell down and fell asleep. I said, I'm going to do something. My father was a carpenter. What do you think I did? Anybody? I know he had glue. So I took my hand, put the glue, ran over it, and put it on the table, and put it underneath the beard. And I squeezed the beard down nice and softly. And all of a sudden he woke up. I say, if he was sleeping another 5 minutes, it would have been dry. So he couldn't. So he said, who did it? Must have been about 6 of us. Nobody squealed on me. And he said, I'm going to find out who did it. You know. And he was really, really, really mad. But he was a nice guy on top of it. But that's how I mischief I was. You know, I'm still the same way. But not quite. So anyway, we went so I picked up the play money and went back. And about 4 or 5 days later, they say, well, you guys have to get out from that hotel because some other kids, teenagers, are coming in. And they asked me, where do you want to go? And I said, where can I go? And she said, you have two choices. You can go to Connecticut, or you can go to California. I said, how about Connecticut and how about California? What did I choose? Correct, Connecticut. Who said California? Well, later on, I chose Connecticut. They assigned me, 5 of us were assigned to that lady who was taken in refugees. Of course, she got paid. She fed us, she washed our clothes. Meanwhile, I went to high school at night, and I was working at day. That was in Hartford, Connecticut. Meanwhile, as I was working, I came home one day, and my friend was talking on the telephone. I said, who are you talking to? He said, a friend of mine. I said, he or she? He said, it's a she. I said, can I talk to her? Sure enough. I said, is that your friend? He said, no. But you can ask her. So I said, I'm going to ask her out. So I asked her out. That was the beginning of 1949. Beginning, 1949. But meanwhile, I joined the National Guard. And the captain from the National Guard, he was a German-American. He said, why the heck did you join the National Guard? You just came over from the fire, and you're going into the furnace. I said, well, I wanted to join the National Guard because in Germany, I used to work for the American Army in the kitchen, so I used to know a few words of English. And so I took it out, and I came home. The guy said, did you like it? I said, no, not really. I asked, can I have a telephone? I said, well, I'm going to take it out one more time. I took it out one more time, and what happened? We fell in love, and we got married in 1949. So you can imagine, I'm here only 2 years, and I'm getting married already, and I'm in the Army. That was fascinating, you know? So somebody has to be up there to push me, you know? So we got married October 30th, 1949. Now, meanwhile, she got pregnant, and they were talking about the Korean War. My outfit went to the Korean War, but my platoon didn't, so I was safe being home. Finally, I got a discharge, an honorable discharge, because I was a father then, at 21 years old. Everything moved so fast, and today everything was so fast from 49 to now. It was like a blink of the eye. That's how fast everything is moving. We got married, and we were in Connecticut. I got a job. I was rolling in dough. What do you think dough? That wasn't green dough. Right, correct. That's a lot of dough. A matter of fact, yesterday I was making challah. Okay, and a lady came over to me. She wants a pink challah. So I made a big pink challah, that big, and I'm going to give it on Friday. So I don't know what she's going to do with it. I think the sister will do something. They're going to do something with it, you know. I think there's for women and for the breast cancer. Yeah, I think that it was. That's what it was. So I'm glad I could make it for them. So anyway, we got married, and I was in the Army. I got out, and my wife looked like Lana Turner. Very, very, very pretty. And she said, when I was a kid, I always wanted to go to California to see Shirley Temple. She loved Shirley Temple. So one of them days, meanwhile, I had a bakery. So I was there, had my own business for 15 years, and I sold the bakery. We moved to California, and I got a job in California on Wilshire Boulevard. And one of them days, my boss said, I got a sheet cake I want you to deliver in Woodland Hills. You're familiar with California? Woodland, you know what Woodland Hill is. And it was a gated community there. I come to the gate, the guard opened the gate, I knock on the door, and this guy opened up the door. He said, well, I got a cake for you. I said, who are you? He said, I'm Spielberg. I never heard of him. That was 19, almost the end of 1975. He wasn't known too much by then. And he took out $10 and gave it to me. He said, thank you. I should have him sign it. It probably would work $11 today. So anyway, and I let it be, and that's the only thing I remember. And if you remember, Spielberg, Schindler's List came out. I hope everybody see it. As a matter of fact, I kids 11 years, 12 years old can go and see it. After this, I wouldn't advise. About 10, 11, they could see it. 11, not 10. And so we stayed in California, and I met a lot of people. My job in the bakery, of course I sold the bakery in Connecticut, so I worked somebody in California. My job in my bakery, we made all the cakes for the studios. Now,